Hey, I'm Dr. Marcus.
I'm Charlie, and this is the Mood Booster podcast.
In this episode, we're reflecting on tradition. We unpack what traditions mean for us as individuals and how they contribute to our own well-being, but also we look at what traditions mean within society and the wider context within which they're placed.
Exactly. We give you advice on how to look at traditions from the meaning and the value that they bring, whilst also challenging them and letting them evolve into something that includes more people from all backgrounds and cultures as well. We also give you some tools and tips on how to create micro traditions, which are little things that we can do daily, weekly, or monthly that brings us a lot of joy and isn't this huge thing as well. It's a lovely talk that we have. We give you a lot of tools and tips, and hopefully that you love this episode.
Yeah. In this podcast, we share evidence-based advice to help boost your mood, improve your well-being, and find joy in the everyday.
We talk about life's highs, lows, and everything in between, whilst also sharing our own stories and reflections from our own journeys.
Yeah. With pillars rooted in introspection, connection, and presence, this is the home of well-being and joy.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Episode 22.
22.
Welcome.
22.
Today's episode is on traditions.
It is indeed.
It is indeed.
Traditions.
We're in a little bit of a different location, aren't we?
We are indeed. Where are we, Charlie?
We are in the wonderful Copenhagen in Denmark. Last week we were speaking on gossip, and we have come to Copenhagen, and we thought we would change it up a little bit. We were in a pub, weren't we?
Yep.
We were visiting my godfather, and we were in a pub having a drink, having some beer, and we were speaking about some local, Danish traditions. He was saying how one of his daughters, it was her birthday soon, and for their birthday, quite a typical thing to do is you actually can't wake up on your birthday before your family come in with these little Danish flags, sort of waving them, saying happy birthday in the Danish sort of language. And then you can get up and then there's a whole breakfast table. This is the tradition that they have.
Nice.
And so you and I were thinking, let's speak about these traditions and what they do.
Makes sense. I saw when I was waiting for you the other day, I was at a cafe and I saw these three people together and then someone arrived and they were waving flags and singing something. It would have been her birthday. Yeah, nice.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so like you say, it was nice. We just thought there's so much to unpack with tradition and how it does lend itself to one's well-being and there's lots of joy associated with it as well. So let's unpack tradition. But yeah, you can obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, see where we are. If you're not on YouTube and you're on Spotify, I would stop the car, get on YouTube and have a quick look because this backdrop is beautiful.
It's an insane recording spot we're in.
Yeah. I guess we'll go into a bit of our weeks.
Yeah, Marcus, how was your week?
We weren't supposed to be here.
We were not supposed to be here.
We're in Copenhagen, the best city in Europe, in my humble opinion.
Yep.
I don't know if it's your favourite city in Europe, but it's most certainly
quickly becoming it.
It's glorious here. We came for a long weekend, and then 2 hours before our flight home on Monday evening, Paul, your godfather, is like, oh, here's this cool app where you can track your flights. And Charlie was like, oh, here's the flight number. And he was like, oh, that's weird. It says it's cancelled.
We were about to leave the flat, literally had our bags ready, and he was just showing us that he could track us on the flight. And we just found out it's cancelled. And we just then spent the next hour trying to figure out what to do. And so the next best possible option with our work and everything going on is Thursday morning. So we have
2.5 days later.
2.5 days later. Fortunately, we were able to stay at Paul's, which is amazing. Thank you, Paul, if you're listening.
Big up.
But yeah, it's very unexpected and spontaneous couple of days, which has just allowed for a lot more joy to be had here.
Yeah, fortunately, we brought our portable mics. They're not the podcast mics, so forgive us if the audio sounds a bit different or a tiny bit, not as good as it usually does. But we are having the best time here, and you will love it as well. So we thought,
some wind,
let's make it work.
Alas, the wind and the boats. Imagine if you can close your eyes, you are here with us in Copenhagen. There are some Danish people cycling to work. You are by the harbour. Imagine yourself there. Close your eyes and take you to Copenhagen. If you've not been before, it's lovely.
Also, I'm a bit like Phoebe from Friends when she has the cold.
Smelly
I have the lurgy, so I'm there like smelly cat.
Lurgy.
Yeah, but no. How have you found Copenhagen? I've been twice. This is my thrice now.
This is your thrice time.
Your third time. Your first time.
My first time.
How have you found it?
I've absolutely loved it. The pace of life for me is something that I always try and observe when I go to a new place, just how people function, the way they hold themselves. And here it's a lovely balance between slowing down, being quite mindful with the cycling to work, because everyone here cycles. everyone is on a bike. There's barely any cars.
Right.
You like park up your bike wherever you go is absolutely brilliant. So it means you get a lot more time to be quite mindful as well. There's not the horns and the traffic that typically comes with London. But there's also a level of, still productivity. People are going to work, people have their goals and they're still going after it. So it's a lovely balance. And I was surprised about how ocean related it is. Like people go through like morning swims and stuff. That wasn't something that I'd expected. So that was a lovely surprise.
You like the ocean, don't you?
I'm not sure if I've mentioned that. I do like the ocean here or there.
Here or there.
Here or there. Here or there.
Here or there.
The food scene is fantastic.
Oh
it's
God.
Unbelievable.
This is every time I come, I'm like, the food's incredible. But I swear this time I'm like, I don't remember it being this incredible.
It's crazy.
Just so fresh and clean.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I was saying to someone yesterday when I was talking to them about it on a work call, I was like, don't get me wrong, I like stodgy food, chips and whatever as much as the next guy. But here, the food is just so much flavour, but it's so simple and just so sort of clean in a nice way and not sort of anyway it's just
fermented
delicious.
Vegetables, everything which is good for you as well. It's lovely here.
Sublime.
I've thoroughly enjoyed my time.
Good.
Any
highlights, peaks and pits?
Highlights, peaks and pits of Copenhagen so far? Ooh, I mean, every evening has been so different, hasn't it?
Yeah,
every evening has been so different. The only continuity has been that we've drunk every night. We've had a beer or more. It's been the one continuous thing throughout the whole thing. That's boosted my mood, I'll tell you that. One peak, I'd say, it was actually on this deck back on Saturday, about 3 or 4 days ago now.
Nice.
On Saturday, the afternoon, evening, it was really sunny. It was just full of young people our sort of age, all jumping in, reading, some nice music going. It wasn't quite obnoxious, but it was just a lovely vibe going on. And that was just, we were there for hours, sorry, and I did sleep, but just been there for a long, long time. It was a lovely sort of energy and vibe. Nice. How about you? Any peaks or pits for this time?
So my peak is, remind me the name of the restaurant over this way?
Oh, Il Bicchieri.
Yes.
La Bianca, something like that.
La Bianca.
It's not that, but it's something similar. Bianchero.
Okay, there we go.
Whatever it is.
I'm rubbish with names. When we went there and just sat there, watched the sunset, and we were reflecting on the podcast and all these sorts of things, and just having a good old chin wag, and it was real nice sitting over the water.
That was awesome,
So that for me is a peak, but I mean, an honourable mention is the night the flight got cancelled.
Yeah,
we went to the pub with Charlie's godfather, and then we stayed for a drink afterwards.
Oh my!
And we were just sitting outside, and these guys, just in the most angelic, harmonious, because it's a harmony, but just beautiful, just started ripping out Danish
a cappella.
Yeah, a cappella, traditional. Speaking of songs, and just the most beautiful scenario. We'll put it in the carousel. And I was just, how is this real? Like, I'm sitting here getting a free concert from these people just singing. My flight was cancelled, and yes, I'm very lucky that I've got somewhere to stay and I can have all my work from remotely this week. So it was just incredible. So there's that as an honourable mention. My pit, for the sake of balance, I'll come back to you for your pit.
Please do.
Was probably, I think, one of the days I just had a little bit of a wave of anxiety, and I was just like, I don't feel nice. I feel really anxious and just want to escape my own brain. And we were in this crowd of people on a dock, just near the water somewhere else, not here. And the day prior, as Charlie said, which was his peak, was lovely, and a nice time doing the exact same thing. But this day it was just too many people, too loud, and I was just like, nah, I just need a minute, and couldn't really do that, and I didn't want to sort of disrupt the plans, so I was just kind of just there like, okay, well, let me just internalize it and just not make a fuss. And it wasn't, but I managed to sort of work through it, and here we are on the other side.
Completely. I was trying to think about my pit there. Do you remember the evening? I'm not sure it's a complete pit, I should very much preface that, but one part of it got quite heated. Our debates, our heated discussion / argument. We were in a brewery, a lovely brewery in a district here in Copenhagen, and we were the last ones there until 2. I think they had actually closed up, and we just sat outside. We had about a 3-hour-long conversation, or a debate, if you want to call it, about vegetarianism versus eating meat. Neither of us were, very much taking on board what they were saying, but us being two different, me eating meat and you being a vegetarian, it got quite heated. I think maybe the word idiot was thrown around, maybe simple-minded was thrown around as well. And whilst the debate itself was really interesting, there were certain points like, God, this is just difficult. Why are we here until 2 a.m. and this waitress walks over? Any more olives for you? And we're just like, no, thank you. We're all good. Anyway, you know, just get back to pointing and just real direct, just shouting at each other about how we're wrong or like how you're wrong for thinking this way.
Yeah.
So whilst it wasn't a complete pit, because it was in like quite a nice conversation at points. Yeah, I think just those sorts of debates I enjoy, but I'm also like, oh God.
For me, it was more. It was fun, but there were where it wasn't as fun is there were times when it wasn't the debate itself, it was the method of debating. And a bit like Paul mentioned the other day, like whether it's speaking over or paraphrasing what someone said and not what they actually meant, and whatever it is, those sorts of things do get a little bit frustrating. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoy the
nice conversation.
Yeah. I'm not a confrontational person, but when there's like you laugh, you know I'm not. I literally, anytime there's any heated,
buddy.
You know that's true. Don't know because I'm not. Anytime there's, why are you laughing like that?
Just saying, you love to debate. You were in debate club.
No, but when
back in school.
like when there's an argument, I literally can't eat for the rest of the day. Like it's not something I enjoy at all.
Of course.
I get upset by those sorts of things. But
you do like a debate.
Yes, but what I was gonna say is when there's like a level of trust amongst people, and you know that it's not something that's like an integral or like a, you know, for lack of a better word, it's not that deep. I enjoy engaging in that. But when there's a confrontation, I don't like.
That's fair. Yeah, that's valid.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I have always been that way.
Yeah.
I stick to.
You've always been that way.
Yeah.
Was that a tradition of yours to not be confrontational?
I think it is a tradition.
Yeah.
He picked it up.
My God. Was that you laying the groundwork?
It was.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
God, I'm good.
You are good.
I am good. Wow, I picked that right up. I thought I was sleek there.
Have you got any traditions, Charlie?
Have I got any? As in, have I always had them?
Yeah.
Something that I say me and my family because that's typically where the tradition started when I was younger. They'd always be surrounded by Christmas or birthdays or those sorts of things when I was a kid. I think as I've gotten older, the traditions within my family have sort of stopped or slowed down. One of them being actually on neither a birthday or Christmas. When we were kids and were losing our teeth, in England, there's a tradition where it's the tooth fairy comes along and gives you £1 under your pillow if you lose a tooth.
We know her well.
Yeah, we know the tooth very well. In my family, we had a slight altered tradition where we would have Fred Hobgoblin, which was the king of the fairies, and he would personally, because my granddad made sure that we were looked after, he would personally come to our house and not send the tooth fairies and give us £2 coins instead of £1 coins for all of our teeth because they were special teeth. Now, that was when we were kids, of course, we absolutely lapped it up. I thought it was the most amazing thing that we were special. Of course, it was just £2 instead of £1. But like that, of course, stopped because, you stop losing your teeth unless you do meth. Yeah. What was so nice about that tradition was it's such a simple thing, completely made up, but it made us feel so... I remember, like, I just recall feeling like, my God, better than people. Why are we picked?
I mean, on my sailing holiday.
What's that? Sailing holiday?
We went sailing this summer and Hobgoblin, whatever his name is, gave us £2 as opposed to £1. Where did you go?
You're saying I'm privileged for having £2 instead of £1? Right? Is that what we're doing? Making me sound privileged? No, I'm super privileged, to be fair. I don't know what I did with the extra £1, but probably more.
That's a 100% increase. That's great.
God, I mean, Fred Hobgoblin had a bank of pounds. I genuinely used to think that they have an entire bank full of teeth just waiting there. Regardless, I digress. I remember thinking as a kid how special it was that Fred Hobgoblin came and looked after us and would be personally seen to us. So that tradition, in essence, was a lovely one as well. We had another one on Christmas. On Christmas Eve, Santa would do a personal run by our house and drop off a tiny little present in the greenhouse. We'd always go to our grandparents' house when we were kids for Christmas every year. And on Christmas Eve, he'd go into the greenhouse and we'd always hear like a little bell. I think it was a bell or something at about 8 o'clock at night before Christmas. I think that's just Santa making sure that we're here. Yeah. And we'd go to run to the greenhouse and there'd be like Lego helicopters or something. Whoa! Santa stopped for us,
That's
something
so
crazy
cool.
like that.
So
and
is it
it's
like
just,
a pre-game to the actual thing?
yeah, it was pre-game. We were literally
Wow,
warming up for Christmas.
crazy.
So I
He's
think
so busy,
he's
honestly.
so busy. So I think those sorts of traditions would be
Yeah.
really nice.
Mm.
They have stopped as we've grown up, just because obviously sad things have changed in life.
Yeah.
As people have moved out and moved on to their own lives.
Yes.
Um,
Because everyone's real.
of course.
Yes.
Oh my God, Fred Hobgoblin's real.
Of course.
I would never say he's not.
Yeah.
Those are some traditions for me. What about you?
What about me? I am a sucker for a tradition.
Yeah.
I'm interested to talk about that today, obviously, and why that is the case.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming. It's happy. It's connected. It's continuity. It's consistency. But yeah. So what some of them are? Let me have a think. Yeah. So
Oh, that's a horn.
there's a big boat making lots of
Big
noise.
boat making some noise.
Let me think. So yeah, one recent one is the birthday table in our house,
Oh, yeah.
which is a great one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we are a bunch of givers in our house. We love to give.
Jesus Christ.
And yeah, it started around COVID actually. The four of us decided we weren't going to go home because we were adults and just we didn't need to go home, and it would just be a lot to do that. So we kind of stuck together and looked after each other, but at the same time, it obviously wasn't the best time because it was COVID and we were all stuck in our homes. And so when the birthdays came around, we were just I don't know who decided what or where it originally, the mechanisms of it, but I think collectively we decided, how can we make it as nice as possible? So in the sitting room, the coffee table, just absolutely load the table with everything that person loves in terms of edible things, usually sweet treats, crisps, prosecco, whoever it is, depending on what they like, beers, and just absolutely load it. So it's just a little spark of joy for their birthday. We'd still get them a gift, because that's a tradition in itself that we practice in England, is buying someone a gift.
Of course.
But yeah, it will develop further than that, and we'd now have what's called the birthday table. So, and we know roughly what that person likes. And you had your first birthday table this year, living with us.
I did. I'm fairly new to the house, and had the first birthday table.
5 years later,
of course, it was much more, as you've just said, something that we all, or the individual who's receiving the birthday table, likes themselves. So table full of
organic,
raw milk,
raw
cheese. What else was there?
Dates, figs.
Was there any raw mints there?
No,
raw meat.
No, but there was a
lot of other stuff like that, wasn't there?
Yeah, other things
raw
like that.
Honey.
Yeah, some duck eggs.
That was it. Oh God, they were brilliant, weren't they?
Yeah, so you had lots of those lovely things.
That was brilliant.
So that's one. Another is let me think. Oh, there's so I still practice it now, all these years later, but it actually originated from my grandma on my mum's side. Every birthday, she loved Motown. Was her music was completely, Motown, R&B, not R&B, soul music, rhythm and blues, rhythm and blues, soul music, but predominantly the sort of the Motown genre of the record label and everything that came from that. And anyway, Stevie Wonder, hugely prolific within that. Happy Birthday to You, or Happy Birthday song by Stevie Wonder. Every birthday, she lived far away from us, so we'd get a call from her, and back in the day she'd have a cassette with the song on, and you'd just hear, as you pick up the phone, the fumbling round of the cassette, and then the play button, and then Stevie Wonder singing Happy Birthday to You every single birthday. And now obviously my mum does it for whoever's birthday, and of course now it's an absolute banger of a song whenever it's someone's birthday who I care about, and I'm making a thing for their birthday. Well, at some stage throughout the birthday, be playing Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday, and it's just
wonderful.
So that's like now a third generation thing.
It's beautiful how it's sort of the same as the Denmark or the Danish tradition, as I was saying earlier, with the little flags on the birthday morning. I categorize these probably as micro traditions, not these big traditions which we often hold, whether it's buying a Christmas tree, whatever it is. These more micro traditions, like the cassette player, the little things, or waving a flag for when you wake up, for instance. That sort of micro tradition obviously is quite a massive sense of joy, or quite a big anchor of joy as well. It doesn't have to be this massive tradition, which often can be quite negative as well. I know we're not spoken about more negative traditions, but it's interesting to note I'd categorize these sorts of ones as micro traditions, which can bring
Micro.
quite a lot of joy.
Yeah, micro. Yeah.
Have I said it quite a few
Yeah,
times?
micro tradition.
Have I said it? Is that what you're doing? You're like mocking.
Yeah, micro.
Cool.
You're used. Yeah, micro.
I'm used to micro. Right.
No, well, that's the thing, and I think
It's not family friendly, Marcus. This is...
I didn't say anything. As we speak about all the time,
Yes.
all of those little things are what add up to the overall well-being. You know, we don't need to look, oh, this every year we have this big tradition. I mean, Christmas in itself in England is a tradition, right?
Of course.
Originating from Christianity, it's a Christian tradition. In that the whole thing is a tradition, and as we said when we were managing expectations part 2, Christmas is a huge thing that people build up, and that is a tradition. But as you say, those micro ones that, okay, maybe within Christmas there's a smaller thing, or within a birthday there's a smaller little thing, or it doesn't even have to be an event. It's like, oh, on this random day we do this thing, or I don't know. Question for you: are things like the matching coffee cups and making sure that we have the matching t-shirts, or I'm trying to think what else. Those little things,
nuanced things.
Yeah.
Would you label that as tradition?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking you.
Would I label that as tradition? I don't. Tradition for me would give a sense of something that I don't know if that's more just repetition or habitual things. Habit and tradition are different. Habits are little things that you do very frequently, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because they're part of a routine and they make sense. We wear these t-shirts because it says the Mood Booster podcast, whereas for me, tradition can come a lot more from like honoring something. Maybe your ancestors, for instance. We honor something like even Christmas, even though I'm not Christian myself. Christmas itself is a Christian tradition.
Yeah.
So I think for me, tradition, if I was trying to categorize, would more be honoring previous things, which might not have been. I don't know though, but then even saying that,
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No, carry on though.
No, I was just about to counter my point, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Because there are things that aren't necessarily about honouring past things. It's maybe it's the part of it is what's in the past and making a connection with the past, but I also think it's like, for me, it's a connection with whether that's yourself or someone else. So there's a tradition between two people. It feels really heartwarming when it's like you both honour that. It gives you that sense of connection, like we both cherish this and we're doing this together, whether it's an annual thing or a weekly thing or whatever. This is our shared thing together that brings us together. Or whether you do that yourself, like you go, my thing is, I don't know, maybe even like my run streak. I run every single day. I don't know if that's a tradition, but it's something that I do to honor myself and to have time with myself, or to have that activity and that mind space every single day. I think it's beyond it's beyond looking to honor the culture in the past or the people in the past or what happened in the past, and it's cultivating and maintaining and nourishing in the future as well. I think it allows you to hold those, continue those things that you hold dear, and I think what it is about tradition is what it symbolizes. It symbolizes connection, like from the social identity theory, for example. We as human beings, the social identity theory poses that we as human beings want to feel connected not only to ourselves but to our communities and to the people around us, and that those connections shape our identity and allow us to feel like we have a grounding and we have a place within the social context in which we live. So in line with that, in having a tradition, people are jumping in the water, it's lovely, it's so wholesome here. But in line with that, having a tradition allows us to feel anchored to whether that's ourselves and in the context of our society, or anchored to our relationship with our friend, our partner, our parent, because we have those things that are there as a grounding. It brings us back to our connection, and therefore it helps shape our identity. My identity as a son, my identity as a best friend, my identity as a partner.
So it gives you, what you're saying as well, is it helps give purpose or anchor that purpose in why we're actually here, which is presence to our identity. It brings you back to normality, and that continuity of that presence as humans.
Well, then the continuity is, I think, a development even further from that.
Is it?
I would say so, because your identity in itself is the connections, and that's what the social identity theory is saying, is the connections between you and someone else, and how that then grounds you to where you are, the context of where you are, and your own identity. The consistency, I'd say, is more continuity based of, well, then you have the continuity theory,
Okay.
which is about how we ground ourselves in consistency as humans. So consistency as well as identity.
Yeah.
These aren't mutually exclusive theories, by the way, social identity and continuity. They very much overlap, and yeah, there is overlap between them. But
Interesting.
the continuity theory is solely focused on how we use continuity and consistency as anchors and as protection and as giving us stability, giving us predictability. So especially in times of, you know, worry or fear or social unrest, we look to things that we know as consistent to help ground us, and
Yeah.
tradition is one of the biggest things that helps that. Tradition of, okay, well, this is a really tumultuous time at the moment, I'm really stressed, you know, work's rubbish, but at least I have Christmas
I
coming
was
up.
just about to say.
I've got this
Yeah.
thing that I know, and everything else might be unpredictable right now in the world, but I know and I can predict based on what's happened in the past, you know, my 28 years of Christmases, this
Yeah.
is something that I've got coming up that is a
It's gonna be
predictable
quite
thing.
nice.
And it's going to be nice. It's going to be that familiarity. And again, then social identity theory, it's going to connect me with the people that are important to me.
Yeah.
But again, from a continuity perspective, it's consistent. It's what I know and it's what's safe.
It's really interesting. Yeah, I completely agree. It's especially in times of unrest, as you said, or times of chaos, which do happen. Saying that life is all just peace is not real.
Yeah.
People go through ups and downs, and so it's when you're in those downs, whatever the tradition is, birthday, Christmas, a birthday table, waving flags when you wake up in the morning,
Yeah.
whatever it is, that sort of thing. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. It's the continuity or it's the
Yeah.
continuousness of it in itself.
Yeah.
Is what actually brings us joy, and those little joys,
Yeah.
we're very much keen, found to talk on.
Yeah.
What help us? It's not these big things, is it?
For sure. And I think more so than, we're different people, and
Yeah.
I only compare us for the sake of sort of illustrating, not for any other reason. But
Yeah.
I'd say I'm a lot more of a social being than you are. Like
Mm.
you know, can prefer your own company and look after, you know, and be a, not always, but you know, a lone wolf in some context,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I very much with I don't think this is a bad thing. Some people might pathologize this, but I don't think this is a bad thing. I look to connections with people. I look to community. If I'm doing something, like if I'm in a cafe, like literally the other day, I was in a cafe having an amazing bit of Danish pastry and a coffee, and immediately I was like, Charlie's around the corner. He would love this. Let me tell him he should come and join. Because I always want to share experiences. I want to learn from people. I want to grow with people. And don't get me wrong, there's times when I need my own space and things, but I think a lot less frequently than other people. And for me, therefore, the connection in terms of the social identity, I put a lot of my own identity on my connections with people and how I connect with people and
Yeah.
how, yeah, my human bonds, which is part of the social identity theory. And therefore I'm so sentimental for a tradition, because I see it, as I said, oh, we've done this thing together for the last 3 years, for example, or the last 10 years. Is my mum and I, another one. My mum and I, every Christmas, it's just been an unspoken thing, but now in my mind it's definitely a tradition. At the beginning, sometime at the beginning of the Christmas period, we will buy each other, again, we never planned it, it just happened every year, and now it's been like 10 years or whatever. We would buy a box of mince pies. We only ever ate one or two between us, but we'd bring together a box of mince pies the first time I'd see her around Christmas. She'd do the same. We don't plan where we get them from, and we'd then kind of compare them and be like, oh, what tastes nicer? And it's always like, it's now in my mind a tradition of the first mince pie of Christmas is always when I come together with mum, and that's then a signifier or an indicator of our connection. And that's something, a mum-son connection and a bond there. It's just one example of that being a tradition that for me as a social being that uses my social connections as grounding and foundations for my own identity, it then reinforces that, and it fills me with joy and it fills me with happiness that when I have those traditions with someone. Because, you know, maybe a bit too much sometimes, like if someone else doesn't honor something that I see a tradition, thinking of every, you know, for the sake of balance, I take it personally and I get upset, and I'm like, oh, I thought that's something that was exclusive to our friendship or a special thing that we did, and maybe that's more me putting too much weight on it. I don't know, but it's,
I say, like, not everything. I completely agree, and I mean, it does sound lovely. Like having those little niche things with people is what makes relationships and friendships unique. It gives a sense of uniqueness to, like, it's like inside jokes with someone. It's like whatever it is, it can be as small. It's, I suppose, where you draw the line with like a little quip that you have someone versus a tradition is, do you do it for the sake of doing it, or do you do it because you both enjoy it? I don't know. Like, Is it, oh, we always do Friday tennis? And is there a timeline where it becomes a tradition? Is it once it's happened for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Is it becomes a tradition once it's happened for a certain amount of time?
I'd say we always do. Literally saying we always do Friday tennis to me sounds like a tradition.
Yeah.
It's a mutually agreed, reciprocal,
Event.
a time, context specific, time specific, continuous
Yeah.
event, which brings both people continuity and connection, and that, which all of those things to me I see as tradition.
And tradition, of course, is always with people. You think it can't happen solo?
No, I think it can happen solo.
You think?
Yeah. Tradition, I don't think there is like if we're linking back again to the social identity theory, yes, is how you find your identity within your social context, and that is a lot to do with your bonds and connections with other people, but your identity is also idiographic, which is your own self, about yourself. So you can, I think you for sure have your own mini traditions with yourself, whether it's I don't know, a random example on the first, just leaning continue. Oh no, okay, I've got one. My birthday every year. I'm a runner. Yes, every year.
I was going to mention
again. I'm a sucker for. I'm a sentimental person. I like tradition because it makes me feel wholesome and happy, and it's just lovely. I would like it to be with other people, but more years than not, because my birthday the last few years has fallen on a weekday, it's been by myself. This year, fortunately, it was with people, and it was lovely, and it was just very wholesome. However, on my birthday every year, I'm a runner. I enjoy doing something that's like something that's nice and fulfilling and wholesome and intentional with my birthday. So for the last, I think now 6 years,
Crikey.
I've gone for a 10k run around Richmond Park. It's the nearest thing to my favourite kind of running that I can get in London. I love trail running. I love exploring forests and all those things. It's absolutely just so enriching for me going trail running. Richmond Park isn't fully that, but it's the nearest thing. So I'm like, okay, well, what's my favourite kind of running? What's gonna, be really fulfilling? So for the last 6 years, on my birthday, I've done the same run around Richmond Park, and it doesn't rely on someone else being there. It enhances it, but it's a tradition, I guess, because it doesn't rely on anyone else, that is more idiographic and is with myself.
Here's an interesting one for you then, because I know for myself, I don't have loads of personal traditions, at least ones which I tie things to. Do you think that someone who, let's say for me, for instance, I don't have traditions because in my mind, whilst they might sometimes be good, in my mind, they can sometimes cage you in.
I'm so glad you said that.
They can sometimes
bring up a similar point.
Do traditions cage us into, like, what happens if 1 year you're like, I don't want to go on a run, or I've got other plans, but you're like, oh, but it's a tradition and I need to uphold it. And sure, you might enjoy it. When does it stop being an anchor and more of a cage? At what point does a tradition become that?
This is why I was going to bring it up, because, and I think even you the other day were talking about something. It was an inanimate object. It was sunglasses, and you were like, I don't need to replicate the sunglasses. I don't need an attachment to sunglasses.
Yeah, they serve a purpose.
And to me, in that conversation, and I said to you at the time, that represented something bigger than the sunglasses. It's like, it's okay to like something and want to have it back, and you don't need to be like, it's okay to have an attachment to something, and it's okay to want to be connected with something, and to have that connection, attachment, commitment to that thing. It doesn't, it's not something to always fear, or I'm not saying you fear necessarily, but in the context of other people, it's not something to always push away. It's not always a cage to have attachments. I'm someone that's the opposite. I see attachments as something that is something to look for, and something that is
to anchor yourself in.
Not anchor myself, but potentially anchor myself. But I just see it it's lovely to have those things that I care about and want to hold on to.
Yeah.
And I want to, even if it's something like a pair of sunglasses, I can allow myself to be sad and want to replicate those exact sunglasses. Even if it's a birthday run, I can allow myself to have an attachment to that run because it's something that brings me happiness. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's not serving that anymore, I wouldn't continue to do it. Like, people ask me with my run streak, they're like, how long are you going to run for? And I'm like, as long as I'm enjoying it, the cost benefit analysis of doing it outweighs, like, the benefit of doing it outweighs the cost of doing it. As long as I'm having a lovely time with it, I'm going to keep doing it. As long as I love my birthday run, I want to do it. If it's something that I start resenting, or I feel frustrated by, or I'm just doing it for the sake of repetition, I won't. But for me, it's because the tradition itself is also the attachment to something. It's something that brings you a connection to your past self as well as your present self, and
Yeah.
it's all of the above.
I completely agree. Whilst it's serving you, it's absolutely fine to have these traditions. But for instance, these glasses is very basic example. But when I lost the sunglasses, very cheap ones from Brick Lane for like £10. It wasn't some Ray-Bans or anything special like that. I lost these sunglasses, and you're like, just go and buy the same ones. And if I had that mindset about the previous sunglasses, I wouldn't have had these ones which I liked. And I think, whilst I have them, I can say these are great. I wouldn't change these for the world. They serve a great purpose. When it goes, it goes. And for me, it's a very minor example, but saying, well, they're gone. I'm sure I can find some maybe even nicer ones or really cool ones, and that change is exciting to me. It didn't serve a big enough purpose where I'm like, well, I need to get the same ones because I like the style. Now, you can easily have it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But if we blow it up to a big example, I think it's maybe to certain traditions, we need to look at the context of the tradition, why we're continuing it, and whether it actually serves us best, or whether we do it purely for the sake of attachment itself.
Well, I think what you've just said, like, is a more of a commitment thing. It's like, I like change so much that I don't need to look back, because every change is an opportunity to be better. And I think it's somewhere in the middle. Like, it's okay to commit to things
No,
and
I
to
completely
have
agree.
attachment to things, and we don't always have to change and find something better. It's okay. Like, what is that moment in those sunglasses, that they were bloody lovely sunglasses, and they were cheap and they were brilliant. Yes, there might be better ones in the world, but I don't want to always be searching for what's better. I want to be content with what is already there.
You
And
and you
in
can be
liking,
whilst it's there, but when it goes, it opens up. Maybe I will if I can't find them again, and if I find myself on Brick Lane, I'm like, oh, I don't have sunglasses. Maybe so, but I lost the glasses. I don't have any new ones. But let's say I perchance stumble upon a cool another cheap pair which look different. I'm like, you know what? This allows for the opportunity for me to try on some new ones. I think just maybe I have an attachment to them whilst I have them. I wouldn't change them for Ray-Bans because I like them and they serve a purpose. However, when they go, it's me saying, well, they served a purpose and I very much appreciated them and they're good, but they're gone now. I wouldn't go out of my way to replace them just because they served their purpose back then.
so linking back to traditions,
Yeah.
as long as it's still enjoyable and I still have that thing available to me, like going for a run if we're using the analogy of the sunglasses,
Yeah.
I don't see the need to change that for the sake of just having change,
No, of
or for the
course not.
sake of just not sticking to the status quo, when consistency and having things that you're attached to and that ground you as a human, that
Yeah.
is part of your identity. Back to the social identity theory, I'm a runner who likes going running, and part of my identity is this. This isn't you, by the way,
Yeah.
so I'm not sort of saying this is you, but playing to the extremes as an example,
Mm.
the idea of being someone that moves away from traditions, to be like, I don't ever want to be someone that's stuck in a rut or that's stuck doing the same thing over and over again. I always want my life to be changing. I always
No,
want,
of course not.
and therefore, might be akin to being like a nomad, for example, and always
Yeah.
moving around and never committing to,
Never having a home.
never having a home. Like,
Yeah.
those sorts of things, I personally, for myself, being someone who likes those attachments and likes feeling connected to in those ways, whether that's to someone else, whether that's to a place, whether that's to myself.
Yeah.
I think the traditions help bring joy through reinforcement and joy through connection,
And structure as
and
well.
yeah, structure.
I think structure is routine. Some
Yeah.
people more than less so. I've found as I've grown up, I've been far more of a routine person. Having structure in my life brings joy. Certain structure, of course, change here or there is good, but routine and structure, it really helps.
I think,
and whether that's in the form of a tradition, I think, yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, and structure also helps on a macro level, from like a societal level, and allows, without sounding like a conspiracist, whether that's from organized religions or governments, we also have traditions to help keep things in order and to help people feel connected in that way. What's the theory called? It's terror management theory, I think.
Yeah.
Is humans feel like an existential, when we think about the existential life and what it means, and we think about mortality, that's sort of, it can, if we don't have things to anchor to, give us this terror. So that's why the theory is called terror management, because things like tradition allow us to feel connected to something that extends and transcends beyond us and this human realm of, we're here and now, and we're all going to pass away.
Of course.
tradition is something that symbolizes something bigger than us and gives us something to anchor to that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
And you can say that might also be similar to things like religion. It allows us to ground in something that's bigger than us, so we don't have these existential things of we're just floating here and we're going to pass away and that's the end of my life and everything's meaningless.
Yeah, because that is very much a way of thought. Like Nietzsche, the famous philosopher, that was his whole thing, was nothing actually means anything. We will all die. You know, it's very like a black pill is like what the online communities use it as, but it's very exactly that, is nothing matters. And like human life is at its essence going to end. So what is the point? It's quite dark at points. But as you said, tradition can ground us in the tangible world, which you and I have found. One of something that we always speak about is the presence and the gratitude for here, searching for these big things and these big answers and these big changes. It doesn't often bring joy, it brings more confusion, whereas sitting in the presence of the moment, being mindful, even here in Copenhagen, it's a tradition to cycle. I don't know if that's quite a tradition, but alas, having things which ground us, as you just said with the terror management, helps us keep grounded and keep that joy.
Yeah, and see something beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what's important, and how that's what traditions do, like you say. A tradition is something that, whether it's Christmas or whether it's, you know, passing something on between generations, like my grandma did that call, and hopefully, you know, my children or my future friends or whoever will do the same. It's like that is a little symbolic, a tiny little symbol of how there's bigger meaning to life than just my current presence. But when I as a shell am here and then leave, I'm not saying, you know, other people don't necessarily agree with that, but that's a theory that says why people hold on to traditions so much, because it allows them to feel placed within something bigger than themselves.
I do challenge traditions in some sense when they become that grandiose. There's a tradition in the Faroe Islands, just, you know, north of where we are. And every year it's called the grind. They have a local word for it, but it's called the grind. It's once a year thing. It's been happening for, I believe, centuries now. All the local fishermen will go out. They will with fishing hooks, or they used to go out, round up all these pilot whales, these dolphins, and slaughter them in the bay.
Oh wow!
Now, traditionally, on average, I think it's about 900 animals are killed in this bay per year.
That's horrible.
Traditionally, because of where the Faroe Islands were located and how difficult it was to get food, this was seated and it was used and seeded, in like nourishment, in sustainability, in providing for the entire island, whether it's the oil, the blubber, the fat, the meat, the bones, to like make, you know, chalk or whatever it is. The entire practice was rooted in sustainability and feeding everyone as a practice. Now, back when it first started, back in the 1800s, I think it was done with rowing boats, with fishing nets and like wooden hooks. So very old and traditional. It still happens to this day, where GPS is used, massive engines are being used. It's not quite trawling level still, and the animals are still all used. However, the context of the tradition has changed. Now, a lot of locals, I think it's like 83% or something of locals, believe that it's a good thing, and then it still should happen. So the local mentality isn't quite shifting yet, and it needs to come within, because it's tradition. It anchors them to their ancestors, and it anchors them to, well, hang on a minute, the rest of the world, you know, farms all their food, all this sort of stuff. Why can't we do this? However, the context has changed. Now, it's important to be privy to the context of where a tradition is, look at the meaning of what the tradition is, why we do it instead of the actual tradition itself, which can then open up to, again, I know it's easy for me who's not from there I'm not trying to give advice to these sorts of people. It's more actually challenging the tradition itself. Not all traditions are rooted in, I mean, there's our joy community. However, the impact it's having could be steeped in some more negative ones.
And there are ways to allow, like, that's something, and continuing from what you're saying, thinking about now, especially where we're at with the rise of, you know, the far right and
some more fascism
stick to our cultural values and all these things, which are all steeped in tradition, you know. People don't like the change for that reason. They don't like it because for them, they see it as a symbol of what challenges their heritage, their culture, their values. And actually, if we take a step back, we can and maybe apply a bit of critical thinking. Maybe I sounded condescending then, but if we think about it, changing a tradition, it's not getting rid of it. It's just allowing it to evolve within, as you said, which is so important, the context of where we are now. We aren't where we were in the 1800s or in when Jesus was around, or when whatever else we want to talk about. We aren't where we are then. We're in 2025.
Yeah.
There's a different context. Therefore, things are allowed to change. It doesn't mean that your values, your heritage, your culture's being completely eradicated
Yep.
and wiped out. It's so sad. Even before we started this episode, there's, in line with everything that Trump is perpetuating and saying and making fit, the moral panic of our culture, our
countries under
traditional
attack.
American cultures being erased, which to me is just the most absurd thing, because traditional American culture, which colonialism or whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's sad because it's leading to the rise of these subcultures of people who, in America, I can't remember the specific state, but they've gone up into the mountains and they're making, it's literally called a white, that's not the name of it, but it's advertised as white only, and their whites only are allowed to be within this village that they're actually
Ozark
building.
Hills and the Ozark Hills,
yeah, and it's that, and in the interview that they were walking around with this news anchor, they were like, yes, we just, they skirt around it, and they never fully ever say that, no people of, minority ethnic background are allowed, but they say, yes, it's fine for us. We just want to keep traditional American cultural values, and this is what we're doing here. We shouldn't be blamed for that. People can live and have their values elsewhere, but in this village, you're not allowed to do that here. And it's that segregation. And it's why I raised that is it's holding so much onto this traditional American values, so much so your lack of ability to evolve with the current context. You're holding on to those traditions and those values so much harmful that you're segregating yourself from a whole society, and shutting and creating hate, because those things do root in hate, and it's because
division and hate.
We aren't allowing ourselves to evolve and placing ourselves within. It's okay that people from different religions are around us. It doesn't negate or wipe out our religion. It's okay that people from different sexualities are around us. It doesn't negate or wipe out my sexuality. It's okay that people from, whatever it is, different gender identities, it doesn't eradicate but there's this fear mongering of, the second I change, I'm so rigid to this tradition and this practice, the second any of it changes, the whole thing is gone. And it's not the case. We can evolve, and still, at the core of those things that we all as humans hold deep, and sorry if I'm a bit of a soapbox here, they're things like unity, collectivism, looking after one another, shared values around that. For some people, it's things like passing on values to your children and reproducing, whatever it is. At the core of that, when you stop the fearmonger and the fear of the unknown, we see that all of these people of different cultures and values and traditions are those values that are just so deeply human.
Completely agree.
And if we allow ourselves to see that, and we can more freely evolve and still keep those traditions, but maybe be less sort of scared of it, and scared of it being wiped away.
It's looking at the meaning of the tradition and not the actual tradition itself. And if you can do that without judgment and be open, again, it's what we were saying, is using the tradition as an anchor, not a cage, is, change isn't a bad thing necessarily. It doesn't mean these values of why you have these traditions to be connected to your past or whatever it is aren't there. It means you can actually grow and evolve and become better. That's, as humans, part of the beauty in life is becoming. And so with traditions, that's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it's really annoying. I'm trying to think of an example that's happened in modern Britain of, we've stopped a tradition because it's fundamentally offensive to minority groups, but I can't think of one. But I know there's pushback of like, oh, we can't do anything anymore, we can't say anything, I don't know, if you think about gender roles, maybe, for example, things that are, I don't know, and people don't, okay, perfect example, weddings, father gives the daughter away, and no one's saying, I'm not saying here that this shouldn't be done anymore, but the father gives the daughter away, and that, if you look into it, is steeped in women being owned by the man, and the daughter was exchanged for property or a dowry or whatever it was. Therefore, the father is walking the daughter, previously his property, now giving over to the husband to be his property. Woman being exchanged from man to man. If you think about it, we can say that potentially that's seeing women as potentially property owned by men from a patriarchal perspective. Now, if one were to be like, oh, actually, if a bride was getting married and saying, I don't want my dad to walk me down the aisle. I want to walk down myself, or I want to walk down with my partner. People, might scoff and be like, God, traditions are dying out. These things, we can't just live how we used to because everyone's trying to be the buzzword woke, and everyone's trying
The
to.
woke brigade.
What's wrong with just having a bit of tradition? It's like no one's saying that we're not villainizing these things, but also they're context specific. Women also weren't allowed to vote before, and now they can. Those things things evolve, things change. If someone chooses not to walk down the aisle, have their father walk her down the aisle for whatever reason, it's not necessarily your culture being eradicated, your history being eradicated. History is history, will always be there. It's just evolving with the time, and I don't think that's the best example because it doesn't evoke that much moral pushback. But I can't think of anything else.
I think as an example, we need to look at why it's happening. Know that it doesn't affect us. Of course, if you're on the side of the tradition where it does benefit you, it's even harder to want to let that go, especially as the change can often seem like an attack on what you do,
your morals,
and where it comes from, your morals, your values. Like I'm sure the fishermen in the Faroe Islands are sat there being like, absolutely, will I never stop. My father did this, my father's father did this, all these things. Why would they stop? Because they were like, well, I don't want to stop. And some guy from England would be like, you should not do that. Of course it's going to sound like that it's an attack on their morals and values, when it's not. It's like, well, the islands don't necessarily need all of that anymore to survive and thrive. It can still very much be a celebration of why that was being held, the sustainability, the independence of these islands, but can it happen in a different way, which less things are harmed.
Another one, I will not speak about this long, but because I don't actually know why it's being challenged, and it's not really my place to because I'm not an American citizen, but people are saying, the actual history of Thanksgiving itself is quite ugly, and it's a lot about ownership of land and people. And
Thanksgiving was when the Americans landed, wasn't it? And then I think
something to do with
had a meeting. My knowledge of America's history is limited.
The reason I use it as an example, because people are saying that and challenging that, and it's like, should we really? Maybe we're not saying maybe Thanksgiving itself should be stopped, but maybe we should show appreciation for
change.
Or indigenous people, or people that were wiped out, or whatever.
I do get what you mean.
And then that's a perfect example. People on the other side, like, we can't do anything anymore. We've celebrated Thanksgiving for forever, and our grandparents did. Why are you just trying to eradicate our culture? And it's like, well, if you firstly think about that anyway, no one's trying to eradicate your culture. It's just being sensitive to the context and everyone, and looking after everyone.
Traditions can bring a lot of joy, but also can bring a lot of challenge as well.
Yeah, they can.
So it's very important. And division. So as we've said, it's important to be wary and intentional with that.
I've spoken a bit about, going way back to the beginning, I've spoken a bit about how tradition gives me joy. I feel connected to myself, to other people, bonded. Like I have in a friendship, or I have that exclusivity thing there. I feel like whatever, all of the above. For you, and in the interest of thinking about well-being and joy, or whether it's good or bad emotions, how I know you have your practices that you've mentioned. What does tradition mean to you on an emotional level?
On an emotional level, inclusivity, I think, is more than anything. That's the first word which comes to mind. Is whether it's my tradition or someone else's, even being witness to it is a beautiful thing. From having traveled to quite a few countries, which I'm unbelievably grateful for, witnessing other countries' traditions, which can be lovely, is such an amazing thing to witness. They can be so different. In Thailand, for instance, there's a tradition once a year to honor, I think it's the water goddess. They will push out these little lanterns made out of banana leaves and flowers on top. It's as like an honorary thing, and being witness to it's beautiful. It's once a year. It's a thing everyone does. They make it. They're selling it on the side of the roads, and you go down to the shore and push it out. Now, in the nature of why I was out there, conservation, all the dive schools went out and collected them afterwards, because the little pins were in the water and pollution and all that sort of stuff. But that can be a fantastic example as to how the tradition and the value and what people connect to their people and their ancestors still did. But we can be wary about the impacts of the tradition and then have a beach cleanup afterwards and clean up as well. And that doesn't take away from the tradition. It's just changing it slightly, even though we're keeping the values there. So for me, whether it's my own tradition or someone else's, to me emotionally, it means inclusivity, including people, in collectivism, bringing people together for a collective idea.
So it helps you feel connected to people as well.
It does. If it's my tradition, if it's someone else's, I don't have loads of them myself, but for instance, I didn't make it on your birthday run, but for next year, I'm sure I'll be there for you, or I'll try to be there on the birthday run. That'll be a lovely thing, because it's your thing, whether it's yourself or with other people, it brings you joy. For me, taking part in traditions, whether they're myself or someone else's, it brings a lot of connectivity. It connects you deeper than just a surface level. Oh, should we go on a run? And so every year I go on a run, and this means a lot to me. I'd be honoured if you can join. And for me, it puts a lot of things, hopefully if the tradition is a good thing, which people are different in, aside, and can often bring people together. Now, again, saying that some are steeped in individualism or, rejecting other people, but for me, it provides the structure, it provides the joy.
So very similar to sorry if you're watching, was that a wasp on my forehead? The wasps here are so bold. They literally, I've had 4 wasps sitting on me since being here. Anyway, it sounds like we're very similar in the sense of, maybe that it's about connection and being bonded to people and other people.
Completely agree.
Social connection for you. I realized we did pull up some evidence before. I might just, because that is a very good segue of the evidence that I do have. So it's Hellawell and Putnam in 2004.
Nice names.
I know, great. Found that participation in cultural tradition actually predicted higher life satisfaction, and importantly for this conversation, increased social connection.
There you go.
In line with the social identity theory and empirical evidence, both supporting that we do feel more connected and have, as such, better life satisfaction from that social connection.
Interesting. I mean, exactly what I was just saying.
It just makes, I mean, to me and you, it's obvious, but it just makes complete sense.
Very interesting.
And on the inverse of that, Murray and colleagues in 2019, they found that when we are overly rigid with tradition and hold on to them too much, and a bit about what we were speaking about, whether it's this subculture in America or whatever it is, it actually is found to block innovation, perpetuate inequality, and even be worse for the environment when we hold on to these things that from an environmental perspective in their review they found all of these things.
Interesting.
So both evidence
have research for
how
interesting.
And it is.
It's all backed by evidence.
It is indeed, as we always do.
That's wonderful. Well, from the conversation here, I've learned a lot. I think it would probably be good if we could narrow that down to some tools and tips for if you want to either challenge these traditions or make sure that they're coming from the right place. Some advice.
And to just, not only advice for challenging traditions that might be difficult, but also just finding joy from these practices as well.
Completely.
So take it away.
Advice tip number 1 is to keep the meaning, not always the method.
Number 2, balance old and new.
As we said. Number 3 is use the tradition as an anchor, but not a cage.
Number 4, it's okay and challenge harmful traditions.
And as we said in the beginning, number 5 is to use and create these micro traditions as joy, small little things as well.
For sure.
So number 1, when I said keep the meaning, not always the method, is ask, what is the tradition giving me? Belonging, joy, grounding. Why am I doing this tradition itself? Then see if there's a healthier or more inclusive way of managing and keeping that.
Well, it's exactly all of what we were saying about. If we unpack it, we see that these traditions, if it's a macro level tradition, like the bride being given away or whatever in the Western culture, it's unpacking the values behind that. Why are we doing that? And it's ultimately it all comes back to, maybe that was a bad example, but it should come back to human values of love, care, respect, all of those things.
Of course.
And when we realize that and unpack that and allow us to see these traditions through that lens, like you say, it allows us to keep that meaning but move and evolve with the method.
Of course. Makes sense.
So when it's balanced in line with that, balancing old and new, we have inherited traditions that are have been going on for centuries, and they are the way that they are, but it can be okay to also balance that and again evolve that with new things, not only for the sake of inclusivity, but also, like you said earlier, you're not just anchoring yourself to something that's been done for centuries, but I actually don't know why I'm doing this and I'm just doing it because I have to. Okay, well, if it's something that you slightly get joy from, but you're feeling a bit frustrated or whatever with it, what can I add to it to add a bit of spice, as they say.
It's exactly the next one, is using it as an anchor and not a chain. Because it's fine to let go of something that doesn't actually serve you. So it's important for you to question yourself and say, why am I doing this tradition? Does it serve me, or am I just holding on to it because other people have done it? And it's fine to evolve, or add on to it, as you said.
Yes, and linking with that is the next one. It doesn't, just because you evolve and you challenge your tradition, it doesn't mean you're disrespecting your heritage. It doesn't mean you're disrespecting your history or your past, or, you know, what my ancestors did 200 years ago. It just means that you are, yes, you can honor that and you can respect that, but it's just evolving within the context in which you're in,
Of course.
with the context within which you're in, sorry. And it's okay to do that. It doesn't negate your past. It doesn't negate your history. History is history. It will always be there. And it's just a case of evolving as opposed to trying to relive history.
Completely. And then the last one is to create the micro traditions as a form of joy. Is what we were saying right at the beginning in Denmark, how they have their little flags and you can't get out of bed until your whole family wakes you up. Have the confidence and have the authority. If you have a family, if you don't, start something because you enjoy it and keep on doing it, because those micro traditions bring so much joy. You know, it can be taking on other traditions or starting on yourself. You know, it's any form, family, friends, just yourself. Start a micro tradition tomorrow, whatever it can be. Something as small as every Sunday morning I go get a coffee from my favorite coffee shop and I say the same thing, thanks and see you next week to the coffee barista, or whatever it is. It can be silly. Create those micro ones, because those little rituals and habits and traditions are what keep us happy.
That's a really big one for me, and it's big because it's everything we talk about in terms of finding joy in the little things and the little moments. Yes, we have in the Western world, we have Christmas to look forward to. Yes, we have birthdays to look forward to on an annual basis. But, and in line with what we spoke about, managing expectations, how can we find those little things that anchor us, those little things that give us meaning, those little things that give meaning to our identity or our connections with our mum or our best friend or our partner. Those little traditions, I would put money on them being so much more enriching, fulfilling, more of a tonic, more healthy when you can maintain those little things. But also, like we say, going back to the points, allowing not just for the sake of that. It's bringing you joy, and the second it stops bringing you joy, that's also okay to let it go. Completely. But it's those little things, those little moments of connection that really what add up and what matter.
Lovely. That was a brilliant conversation as usual. Thank you for that.
Much. Yeah.
Traditions. I wonder what traditions. I'd like to start one.
I think
I can start one or two. I can learn.
Start a tradition?
Definitely.
Yeah, fine.
Well, speaking of our traditions, what's your weekly mood boost, Marcus?
My weekly mood boost. One of our mood boosters, Chanel.
Yes.
She wrote in. She has been swimming more recently.
Chanel.
Keeping fit.
It's Chelsea.
My bad. I'm very sorry. I told you I'm really bad with names.
Chelsea.
Yes, Chelsea.
It's because we watched the parrot video. Chanel. She's
there we go.
Great.
Sorry, Chelsea.
We were watching that
one
before
of our
this.
Business, Chelsea, wrote in. She has been swimming more recently, and yes, is feeling fitter for it. So Chelsea, swimming more. Well done. Congratulations.
Our mood booster,
what
Chelsea.
About you?
Justine, she has finally finished her secondary round of medical applications, which is fantastic.
For medicine school, right?
For medical school. And so, knowing how long that takes, it takes a while. So well done. Fantastic job, you.
Good luck moving forward.
Come on,
Fingers
Justine.
crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully you get what you want.
Yes. Well.
Some weekly mood boosts.
Oh, God.
I think to celebrate, we jump in the water.
Okay, in the water?
In the water.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Please let us know any traditions you have. Let us know how that advice has gone with you. And if you take any of that on, we would love to hear, as always, in the comments, in the DMs, feedback, just let us know.
Go over to YouTube and let us know your unique traditions. We'd love to hear them.
Happy episode 22.
See us. Hop onto YouTube and see us jump in the water now.
See you later.
Okay, we going in? I've got the pockets. Ooh. Nice job. Woohoo!